All right. Hey guys, it's Kevin again here with
Allie?
Yes. And so if you guys remember, for the past several years, I've been doing these videos where, whenever the fall pilots come out, I always do a video talking about each one of them. Because I don't typically review these shows, I think it'd just be fun to review them, but also kind of torture myself into watching the amount of, for lack of a better term, dribble that I will be watching, because that happens a lot. But I did it for the fall one. It was very successful, and I figured, you know what, there weren't that many shows to talk about in the fall one. There just weren't as many shows, but you know what, there is a lot of mid-season ones. There's a lot of shows coming out this mid-season, and not only did I decide I am doing a mid-season type video, it's going to be the same thing. We go through each show and talk about them, but obviously I'm not alone this time. Why? Because all of these she's been watching with me, so I just feel like we've been watching these together. I've been making her suffer through some of these shows that are not very good. We might as well, she might as well get rewarded and watch this and review this with me. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
I wouldn't say you torture me with them. I've been enjoying.
If they're really bad, I mean, I made you watch La Brea, so like.
I mean, yeah, but it just ended up not being good.
Yeah. But anyways, we're going to get started here. Like I said, there's a lot more to talk about. As of right now, there's only, I believe, like 10 shows we're reviewing in this. But, and I told Allie this, like, because it's mid-season, for all we know, there could be more shows coming out in February and they just haven't announced them yet. So that's why we're getting this done now. As of right now, there's 6 shows we've already watched. So like, I'm kind of breaking my rules a bit. Usually I like doing these like as I watch them, but we watched a bunch of them at the same time. So sue us, I guess. Anyway, we're just going to go ahead and get started. Are you excited?
I am.
Yes. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the first show here. Let me just go ahead and open my notes, because I do take notes for these, because I watch so many. I take notes for these. So yes, look at me being organized.
And I'm also I'll be following my Twitter thread, because I did that for the fall pilots as well.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do is, like, I'll talk about it, then you'll talk about it, then we'll give, like, our individual grades, and yeah. All right, so we're going to get started with the first one. So the first show we're talking about is Abbott Elementary, and what's really interesting, I think, about these first 3 pilots is that they came out all the way back in December, and we could have watched them when we were together. We just didn't for some reason. I don't know why. We were going to watch these like when we met up in person, but we just didn't until now. But either way, this one, I will say, most of these shows we're talking about, I didn't know anything going in, and this is one of them. I didn't know anything going into this show. I didn't really have any real expectations going into it. I don't really think you did either, so I don't really think there's much to say there. But I have to say, for a first episode, I really did dig this one quite a bit. I really like the vibe of it. The one thing I will say right off the bat is that while it is a like The Office or Parks and Recreation type show where, they have those like that mockumentary feel, it's cutting back to like mock interviews and things like that. What I like immediately is that this one is a bit more of a narrative purpose. A lot of this show, it's trying to cover this school that is just not doing well financially, to the point where they don't have rugs, they don't have certain school supplies, and there's like a documentary about disenfranchised schools, and this happens to be one of them. And I really like that idea a lot. I think that's a really interesting way to actually give that documentary thing a purpose, because I'll be honest, like, I don't mind shows like that. I just want to have a bit more of a narrative purpose. So I like that right off the bat they give us a bit more of a reason here, and it kind of brings this like it kind of brings this like poignant sort of feel to the show that I think is very well done. So that's something that I definitely really did enjoy. And I think the school being broke especially is going to be a really interesting plot point in the show, because we can already see like how selfish the administration is. And this is something that I actually can relate to. My college, now it wasn't to the level of this, but there was a semester, I remember, where like a bunch of the staff was like trying to boycott like the school and things like that, because they were opening up like a whole other like they were opening up like this whole other like section, and like they weren't getting paid or something like that. It was something crazy like that was going on. But like I have heard stories like this before. So I think it's really good that this show is kind of like shedding light on this school that is just constantly fucked over in terms of like supplies and things like that. I think that's overall very interesting. And I think right off the bat, they do a very good job. I also really like the opening of this where we just kind of see the character of Janine and her teaching environment. That's something I really liked right off the bat, is that you can see that she's someone that's like very bubbly. She really cares about her students. She wants to put that effort in. And then you contrast that to the other teachers, which are just so cynical and so over this. They want nothing to do with this school. They want to get out of this, but they're also like so used to being disappointment. Like they have almost no hope whatsoever. I think that's what makes Janine like such a good lead character, is that she has this optimism in her, even though we can already see that's sort of like getting destroyed a bit. It's not necessarily as strong as it was, but I really like that. And I think that her optimistic side, again, is something you just immediately latch onto in the show. And the actress that plays Janine, I really liked her quite a bit. I've never really seen Quinta Brewston before. She also created the show. Very good in this lead role. I really liked her in this, and I hope to see I think she's definitely going to be a reason to stick around for sure. And again, we also get a sense early on of just how harsh this district is. I mean, these teachers, like, they're trying to do everything they can to, like, you know, make this school the best, and they're just not treated well at all. And I think, like I said, the show delves into that very well here. The film, and like I said, the film crew does play a pretty big role, which I like, but the show is also like really funny. Like, I want to say that right off the bat, the show is very funny to watch. There were a lot of moments that definitely did have me laughing, especially just the interplay between all of the teachers. And I think that's definitely something that's a lot of fun, especially I would say Cheryl Lee Ralph's character, Barbara, I thought just had me howling throughout this entire show. I loved her character.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
She's this kindergarten teacher. She's worked at the school for years. She is very much over it, and she is just an immediate standout to me. She's very cold. Same with Lisa Ann Walter. She's also like very cold and serious. I thought those two, to me, were the biggest standouts in this pilot. I really liked what we end up getting from both of them. So I thought they were both a lot of fun here to watch. So I definitely really did enjoy them. The things, and in terms of comedy, I mean, like I said, this show is just really funny in terms that I was laughing quite a bit. The funniest scene, I think you'll agree with me, it involves a bathroom. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I really liked that scene quite a bit. I thought that was really funny.
I mean, bathroom scenes are pretty hilarious.
Yeah, most of the time they tend to be pretty funny, but things I didn't like quite as much. There are a couple things I didn't like. Right off the bat, I understand that they are supposed to have Janine be this, like, she's a new teacher, she's kind of settling into this environment, but because that, I don't think the character of Jacob is really necessary at all. He really is just here so she has someone to interact with, someone to bond with, and I just didn't really feel like in this first episode he provided like anything to me. Like, he's just kind of here. I honestly kept forgetting that he was in the show, and it's not that like I think that Chris Perfetti is bad. Like, I really like his chemistry with Janine. I need more of a narrative purpose for him, and right now I don't really see that. I don't really see a reason for him to exist in this show right now. So I'm just not really as into his character. And also, unfortunately, I wasn't really a big fan of Ava either. Now, maybe this is going to change over time. They're able to dive deeper into her. We can see more of why she turned out this way. But to me, this gave me like very like Sue Sylvester vibes, but like not, but kind of lacking like the fun of that character. I wasn't a big fan of her. I didn't really feel like her character like realistically fits in this environment. Like, I'm sorry, but the idea that she like blackmailed a superintendent and now she's just kind of like been forced in, like, and now she's just kind of forced herself into this position is ridiculous. It's just not something that can work for me, especially when the show is trying to shed more light on like disenfranchised schools. Like, I get it. It's funny at first, but I just was not a fan of her at all. I found her super one note. She really is just like the obnoxious principal that like doesn't give a shit about any of her staff. She'll always do things for her. I will say I did think the moment was funny when it seems like she's finally like on Janine's like good side, and it seems like she's finally like on her on her wavelength in terms of like how much they need these supplies. And then she just like creates a banner for herself. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah. But like aside from that, I don't know. I wasn't really big on her in the show. I like Janelle James. Like I think she's doing a good job, but just overall, I'm just not really a fan of this character. I find her incredibly one note so far, and I just don't really like what she's bringing to the table. But I really like the way the show wrapped up. I like seeing that while Janine still had, even though things didn't really work out for Janine, you can see that these teachers are already trying to like stick by her. They like the fact that like she's really pushing for this. We see at the end where they're like including these rugs and things like that, and they're starting to improve the school. So I think that is really good. The only other thing I will say is the character of Gregory. I want to touch upon him because I really do like his character. I think Tyler James Williams is very good. He adds this optimism to the show. He adds this bit of hope. My problem is I don't think he should have been introduced in this first episode. I think we could have easily waited a couple episodes to give us this character. I think if there was, we could have had a couple episodes down the line you can bring him in. But right now, I didn't really feel like he needed to be in this pilot. I think you really could have waited on that because you already have Janine for like that optimistic sort of angle. I don't really feel like you need Gregory right now. Again, I like him and I think he could be a really good character. I just didn't really feel like right now he was all that necessary. But other than that, like I definitely did enjoy the show quite a bit. I think it has a lot of potential. I will say I don't really know how this is going to last past like one season, because this is a very like solvable conflict. All they have to do is get rid of Ava, throw in Gregory, who already is like way more passionate and cares a lot more about the school, and then it's pretty much solved from there. Like there's not really a lot more that is going to go on in terms of conflict. So I'm not really sure like how this show would last overall, but I really like this cast. I think the show's really fun. I think it has a lot of stuff about like I said, like schools that are just not really given the respect that they deserve. I think a lot of people are going to latch onto. So I really did enjoy this one quite a bit. And I'd give it a B-. I'd give this one a B-. I think this was a pretty solid pilot, and I definitely want to see more. But your thoughts on Abbott Elementary?
All right. I'm going to be following my Twitter thread and maybe give a few extra things here. But obviously, the representation was just really important. Love that. And I really enjoyed this pilot. I came into it blind, so I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, same.
But it really like surprised me. I thought it was actually quite strong. It's actually quite good, and I didn't even know that Chessie from The Parent Trap was in it.
Yes.
That's a cultural reset, queen. And I thought it was just really funny. It was really comedic and just a very fun show. And the one-liners I thought were pretty hilarious.
Yes, definitely.
And of course, the bathroom scene that killed me.
Yeah, oh my god.
And I like the acting. Like, I don't think anyone was really like bad in it.
No.
But yeah, Ava, not really a big fan of her yet. But not saying she's a bad actress. She just
no.
The character just kind of isn't the best yet. Doesn't really have anything nothing really interesting with her.
Yeah, nothing to really latch onto with her.
I mean, hopefully, like she'll get more of a storyline later, but we'll see. But other than that, there's nothing too much to say. But I gave that pilot a B.
All right, so those are our thoughts on Abbott Elementary. Moving on to the next pilot, which was another one that was played in December. They played this in December. Not only that, they did 2 episodes for this show, but as you guys know, my cardinal rule of this, of these, I don't know if I brought it up, but like my cardinal rule of these, like, pilot reviews is that I can only just do that. I'm only reviewing the pilot, so I have not watched any other episodes of the show. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of American Auto right now. I said this to Ali like a few minutes in. This entire show to me feels like an SNL sketch, like, and not in a good way, in a way where like it's funny for like 5 minutes, but beyond that, I just don't really see a lot from the show. I think the premise on paper is really funny. I like the idea that you know, we have this car and they're trying to test it out, but the car is like straight up racist and it's doing all these like, you know, problematic things and they have to try to like improve the vehicle. Like that's a really funny idea, but I don't see how that can last past like one episode. And right now there isn't a lot to latch onto here. The thing I will say is that Anna Gasteyer is really good. She makes a good impression. She's very funny to watch. Her character, though, I really don't like. I think she's honestly kind of insufferable. And I'm sorry, but the idea that she would get this job is just so stupid to me. Like, it's similar to Abbott Elementary, where I just can't buy into it. I can't buy into the idea that this woman, I believe, was like, what was she, like a social worker or a lawyer or something like that? And suddenly she's like thrown into this like she's the head honcho of like this place. She knows next to nothing about cars. I'm sorry, I just can't buy into it. I think it's a little too ridiculous, and I don't think the show does enough groundwork to really make it work. Maybe they'll do a better job, but right now I am just not really feeling it at all when it comes to that character. Again, I like Anna Gasteyer, but to be honest, like if she wasn't playing the role, I think I'd fucking hate this character because I don't like the idea of her. I get what they're trying to do, but that's something that works in an SNL sketch. It doesn't really work for an entire show. And I hope if I continue to watch the show, which I do think I'm going to give it another episode. Like I'll say that right off the bat, out of the ones I haven't liked, like this is definitely the one I'm most willing to watch more of. I hope that they are able to give a little bit more context into how exactly she got this position. Because right now, I don't understand. I get it. They want like more diversity and inclusion and things like that. But like get someone that like actually knows what they're doing, not some random lady that like has no experience with cars. Like, no, I don't like that. I also will say that the characters here just didn't really do much for me. And I really had a hard time latching on to most of them. I mean, besides Anna Gasteyer, the people we focus on the most are these two people that I guess had sex like the previous night or something like that, and now it's like really awkward at work. Like, am I supposed to be latching onto this? Am I supposed to care? It's a really weird introduction, and I feel like they really want them to be like the heart of the show, but it's just not for me. Like, I don't care about these two people. I don't care about the romantic complications they have. It just didn't interest me at all. The only character I really latched onto was Michael B. Washington, who he's really the guy that's like, he's designing these cars, he's taking it seriously, so he's kind of getting the brunt of all of the controversy, and he has to kind of like do what he can to like work around that. I think his character could become like the best of the entire show. I like his energy. I like what they're getting at with his character. So I'm enjoying what we got with him at least. But like everyone else, like I said, there's just too many characters here. They don't know what to do with like most of them. And I just wasn't really into that overall. And I also will say, again, I think that there are some funny moments in the show with like testing out the car that make for some fun moments. Like the idea when he goes into the car and like it doesn't respond well to like darker objects, I thought was like actually a really funny idea. It's when they really try to push that joke and make all these like culturally relevant jokes, it just did not work for me. I'm like, no, this is really cringy. This is not working. All you're doing is trying to like reference things. There's really no joke here, and I just didn't really find it funny. Like I said,
that was not funny.
What?
Oh, I just said that was not funny.
Yeah, I thought the opening scene in like the pitch room, like I said, to me that felt like an SNL sketch, but I felt like once we got to like the stuff with the car, they were like really just pushing it too far. So overall, like I do think this has some funny moments, but I just don't see this lasting like at all. I don't see an audience for this show. I don't really see anyone latching onto it. Everyone I've talked to about the show have said it sounds really dumb and they don't want to watch it. So like, yeah, I mean, like I said, I do want to give it another episode just to really like kind of sit on like how I feel about it. Cause there's been shows where like I haven't liked the first episode and then it gets like really good. And I hope that this is one of them. It's just right now, like I'm just not really feeling it. I think there's some fun ideas. I like that one character, as I said, but right now for me, I just don't really see how the show is really going to last at all. I don't really see this getting an audience. I know this is from the creator of Superstore and I haven't seen that show, but from what I've heard from people, it's already lacking a lot of like what made that show work. So yeah, I was not a big fan of this one. So C for American Auto. I didn't hate it. I actually liked some of it, but I'm not really feeling this one at all. But I will give it another episode, as I said.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on this one. I did like the comedy and some of it and was like pretty good. but some of the quotes were a little silly and strange, or I was like thinking like, what are they trying to do here?
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out either.
The acting was all right, but yeah, like Anna Steyer was good, but like yeah, her character was kind of insufferable. But who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe she'll get better as the episodes go on.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you on the SNL sketch. It definitely seems like one. It just seems like an SNL sketch, or just like
yeah, like I keep waiting for like an audience to laugh. Like that's how much it feels like an SNL sketch. Like
or
they're
just like
for laughter,
or just like like one sketch that's maybe not maybe either SNL or just like a
YouTube one, yeah,
like a one night comedy kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, like the jokes were just kind of iffy, like the cultural and like the all that kind of that conversation and all the problematic stuff. I did not like that.
It wasn't funny.
I didn't like the racism. It's pretty bad. But yeah, I mean the story and everything has some good ideas, and there's definitely potential for it. But I don't really see this show having more than like one season. Maybe not. Maybe it will get canceled after only a few episodes.
Yeah, I just don't see like an audience for this show, honestly.
No. I just don't think like the viewers are really gonna like connect with any of this. So I ended up giving it a C+ because it does have potential, but it's definitely not great.
Yeah, so that's American Auto. Let's move on to one that I'm actually very excited to discuss, Grand Crew. This surprised me a lot, I have to say. Now, the one thing I will say right off the bat about this show is that this is not the kind of show that you normally would see on, like, NBC. Like, normally this would be a show you'd see on, like, HBO or, like, Stars or something like that. So I'm very surprised that, like, NBC got a hold of this one. And again, I say it surprised me because it's another NBC comedy that I went in not really knowing anything about. And most of the time, that's not really a good thing because I feel like NBC comedies are pretty like hit or miss most of the time. So I wasn't really expecting much, but I really enjoyed this quite a bit. I think what really works well about the show is the simplicity of it all. There's not a lot going on like plot wise here. It's very much just like you have a bunch of friends, they hang out at this bar, and we kind of see like different things going on within their lives. And I think that works really well. Like the show doesn't try to do anything more than what it is. And I think it's honestly better because of it. And also this cast just has such great chemistry. They all bond so well together. I could honestly have taken another hour of just them at the bar just like making fun of each other and like their different struggles. Like it just feels so like natural in that way, and I think they all worked really well in the show. So I will say, in terms of comedy, the two big standouts for me, Nicole Byer is fucking hilarious in this show. I loved her subplot here where she's dating this guy and it seems like everything's going great, and then it turns out that he's a Republican and she's like freaking out. Like I thought that was such a funny idea, and they did some really
so good.
Great stuff with that. So I thought that she was just an immediate standout to me, and I think that she's definitely going to be someone to watch out for. I've liked her in a lot of things, but like I think this was easily like some of the funniest stuff I've seen her done. The other big standout for me was Carl Tarts, who he played the roommates of one of them. He had this one scene about like toilet paper, and it might have been the funniest scene of the entire pilot. I loved what he did in this first episode. I thought he was an immediate standout to me. So I very much I very much enjoyed him in this show. And I like Noah as a character. I think he is a really good main character because he's kind of like, you know, while a lot of these characters are like really wacky and out there, he's kind of like the most normal out of everyone, where he very much is going to be like the heart of this show. I like what they did in terms of his relationship, that it actually doesn't work out. Like he doesn't end up going through, you know, this girl, she doesn't, you know, she leaves him. She doesn't want to marry him. I thought that was a really interesting sort of plot point. And the scene where he's like seeing her everywhere, that to me might have been the standout moment of the entire pilot. I was dying of laughter within that scene. I thought they did a really good job with that. So I really enjoyed what they did with him. And I also really enjoyed the scene where he kind of talks about like his troubled childhood and how Alicia was kind of the girl that like made him feel more secure. You really see why this matters so much. It's not just like a pointless relationship. Like this is something that mattered a lot to him. And so you can see why this is affecting him so much. So it's not like the show is just all jokes. Like there is a beating heart to this show. And I think that's something that really latches latches you onto a lot of these characters. So that's something I really did enjoy. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot I really liked about the show. I love the subplot, as I said as well, between Anthony and Shem and like their friendship where they're living together and you can see they're getting on each other's nerves and it's not really working out, but then they talk it out and it seems like they're going to be okay moving forward. I thought that was a really fun subplot and I really enjoyed those two a lot. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I liked about this. Like I said, I loved how laid back and fun this show really is. And I think the show has a very like specific sense of humor that isn't going to work for everyone, but it very much worked for me. I was definitely into this show in terms of humor. The only things that really kind of brought this down for me is I will say, Justin Carmichael's character, I like him. I do, but I don't really feel like there's much to him right now. He's kind of just like the supportive friend, and that's kind of it. And I want to get a little bit more from his character because I like him in this show, and I hope they're able to maybe dive a bit deeper into him overall. And I also will say the narration I didn't really feel like was necessary. It was very jarring. I do think it summed up the premise pretty well, but like I just didn't really understand what it was doing here. I didn't understand the purpose of it. It only lasted like the beginning and at the end. And from what I've heard, the second episode, they ditch it entirely. So I just don't even really understand the point of it. I get what they were going for, where it's like, you know, these men are sensitive and we have feelings and you know, we're not just we're not just like one note. Like I thought that was a funny idea, but they just didn't really do much with it. And I wish that we would have given a bit more of a purpose to the narration overall. But like I said, I really just like the nature of the show. I like the chill sort of feel of it. I think overall, I'm shocked that NBC got a hold of this one because it really does not feel like something that they would normally take on, but I'm very happy that they did. This is easily the best pilot so far. It's probably one of the best comedy pilots I've watched in quite a bit for one of these shows. So yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. Definitely out of the ones we've watched, this is easily my favorite. Definitely B+ for Grand Crew. Very much enjoyed this one.
All right. Like you said, I honestly loved how like chill and laid back this one is, and it was just very intriguing, and the storyline I just loved, and the one-liners are hilarious. Yeah, probably the best pilot out of those three.
Yeah, easily. Well, I think out of the ones maybe not for you, but for me it was.
Yeah, obviously the representation is amazing and important, which always have to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously it's comedic. It's really hilarious. It's really fun. And honestly, I think this cast has the most amazing chemistry because they all like vibe with each other and they all have like a genuine connection. And honestly, the sandwich lady kind of made me laugh hard.
Yeah, that was funny.
And that one line, it's like wiping your butt with cotton candy. I died.
That was the line. That was the toilet paper line. Yes, that's what I was referring to. That was so good.
I died so much. Yeah, this pilot, one of the best. I'm so excited to see more, and I feel like they're gonna even add more to the story, and I can't wait to see more things that happen. And of course, Nicole Byer, probably the best in the show.
She's hilarious. Great.
But yeah,
just the scene when she's like running away from the guy, like so funny.
Yes, I love that. But yeah,
and like how like annoyed she is because like I like the idea that like everyone warned her about it, and she's like, no, he's fine, and then it turns out they were right. Like I thought that was really funny.
That was hilarious. Yeah, she's really great, and but yeah, can't wait to see what happens in the upcoming episodes. Definitely one of the best pilots I've seen in a while. Or like for a comedy show. Yeah. And I gave this one an A- actually.
All right, so that's Grand Crew. We're going to go from one that really surprised me to one that I really don't want to talk that much about because I did not like this next one very much at all. The Cleaning Lady. Going into this, all I knew was that Elodie Young was in it. And I like Elodie Young a lot, but I will be honest in saying I don't think she picks the best projects. Like, I think that she had some really great work as Elektra in Daredevil. And since then, she has just not gotten anything that is like noteworthy. I have not enjoyed most of the roles that she's taken on, completely wasted in like Hitman's Bodyguard and things like that. And here, I will say, she's easily the best thing about this show. She's very good here. I think she gives a lot of layers to this character. You latch onto her, I think, because of that. And overall, I think gives her a bit more emotional heft. Unfortunately, the show that she's in is so incredibly cliche and generic. And there just really isn't anything to the show that really stuck out to me overall. I mean, the one thing that especially got to me is that this show like has a very good message, right? It's about, it's trying to tackle a bunch of things, but I think the main one that they tackle in this episode, obviously immigration, things like that, we'll get into that. But the big thing in this show is that they're trying to show how like, the patriarchy and women need to like stand up against them and things like that. And that's a very noble message, but this show shoves it down your fucking throat constantly. I mean, it is so bad in terms of that. They're constantly talking about like how abusive men are like, at least women saying up against abusive men. And again, it's very admirable, but it's done in like such a forced and unsubtle manner. It really just kind of alienated me. I'm like, I get what you're trying to say, but like, it's only the first episode. Like you can't go this deep already. Like you got to get us there. Like I just found it so overly preachy in that way. And I hate saying that because again, it's a very important message, but the way that they cover it here, I just don't think was well done here at all. It was very unsubtle in that way. And it also doesn't help that, a big part of the show, obviously, is that this character is an illegal immigrant. And that should be something the show dives pretty deep into. But I really felt like it was kind of just like an afterthought here. I didn't feel they dived quite as deep as they should. There is a good scene where she's going up and they realize like she doesn't have a green card, and you can kind of see her like struggling with that. But like they really don't dive deep enough into like what this means for her, how she's gone there. I don't know if I needed flashbacks or something like that, but I just didn't really feel like they covered that all that well in the show. It really just feels like that's like the one thing that is supposed to make this feel different from like other crime dramas, because if you take that out of the show, this is a very basic crime drama where you have this woman, she's trying to protect her family and she's like going undercover because of it. Like we've seen this 1,000 times before. There's really nothing different going on here. I don't know about you, but besides Elodie Young, I thought most of the actors here were fucking trash. I was not a fan of really any of them. Aiden Kanto, look, he's been in a lot of stuff, but I just don't think I like this guy. I don't like his acting choices. I think that he is way too over the top. We watched him in another movie, Bruised, with Halle Berry. He was really bad in that, and I do not buy him in this role at all. I don't like him as an actor. I don't think that I'm sure he's a nice guy and things like that. Like nothing against him personally, but like, as an actor, I just don't really like him at all. And I don't think he really worked well in this role for me. I also thought the fight scenes were just really not very good, very standard. You don't really get a sense of any of the action. It kind of like cuts away a lot of the time. So I wasn't a big fan of the action here. And just in general, I did not find this story very interesting. I think the most interesting scene for me is when she's with that one girl. I think it was her sister. I think that's who she's supposed to be. Her sister-in-law, and she's like kind of lashing out at her because she keeps like getting drunk and she needs to like stop doing that, and she needs to, she's kind of like worried about how this is going to affect her family. But again, I think it was more Elodie Young's acting in that scene and less what was going on story-wise. But to me, that was like the only interesting thing really going on here. Aside from that, I just didn't really care about really anything going on in this show. There's not really enough going on with our main character to really latch onto. And I think the big reason is like we don't know her family, we don't know her situation, so like we can't really latch on to any of it. It's very much like a show not tell thing. I really wish we would have gotten to see her life, and I'm going to bring this up in the next pilot we talk about as well. I really wish we would have gotten to see her life like prior to this in order for me to care, because right now I simply do not care about her at all. And yeah, I mean, overall, I just found this pilot really dull. It didn't do much to compel me. The ending was terrible, by the way, like such an obvious reveal, like, oh my God, they're going after her. Like, no shit, they're going after her. That's the point of the show. Like, that's not a good cliffhanger to end on. I just needed something more to this show. I really just did not care about this at all. I will say I do think this show could last because of Elodie Yung, because I think people are really going to latch onto her as an actress. But other than her, I just didn't really feel like there was much to this show at all. I really found this to be a very boring pilot. She's the thing that really keeps it from being like terrible. But overall, I mean, I just don't have any interest in continuing this one whatsoever. So C- for the cleaning lady. I've said all I've needed to. I was not a fan of this one.
I actually wasn't really a fan of this one either. It had some like decent moments, like the storyline has great ideas, but it just wasn't, in general, it just wasn't portrayed very well.
It was not executed well.
It was just very generic, very mediocre. Representation and the message were important, though. Those were great.
Oh yeah.
Of course. And Elodie Yung, hands down, the best part of the series so far. But yeah, she was definitely the person who made it not terrible. I probably won't rewatch another episode, or sorry, I probably won't watch another episode, but we'll see. No. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Who knows? But most likely I won't. Yeah, I don't really see this series, in my opinion, getting past season 1. But it like also it just dragged on at points too.
Oh yeah,
kind of boring. The fight scenes were great. But yeah, overall, I just wasn't really impressed with this one, and I gave it a C.
All right, so that's the cleaning lady. We're going to move on to probably the one we disagree on the most. I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on this one. That's Good Sam. I know a show that this was the only one going in that like you were very excited for. So I'm actually going to start with you. Like, let's be positive here, Allie. We're going to start with you, then we can get to me and why I didn't like the show, but go ahead.
All right. Well, for starters, I've been a huge fan of Sophia Bush for years and like love her on One Tree Hill and everything. So I was just so happy and excited to see her back on my screen. I adore her, and I just find like her little raspy voice like the cutest thing. But and I do find her a very underrated actress. But I actually was very excited for this show. The elevator scene gave me Grey's Anatomy vibes, but obviously I haven't really watched Grey's Anatomy in years. I used to love it, but now I'm just not very impressed anymore. This definitely kept me on edge a lot, like just a lot of the like riveting parts and just a lot of the conversations and everything. But I did think it was a bit rushed. Like the beginning part, we didn't really get to.
That is an understatement, but we'll get to that.
I wish we got to see more of the time jump and everything, and like how Sam handled this accident and everything, and all this, everything that happened. Like, I just wish we could have seen more. But who knows? Maybe in the upcoming episodes, which I'll definitely continue. Maybe we'll see more of the time jump and flashbacks. Who knows? I would love that. I did think I like the passion and the heart. There was definitely that. I want to see more of her relationship with like her parents and everything. But yeah, definitely needs tweaks in the show. But overall, I did not dislike it. I thought it was actually quite good. Like, it gave me Private Practice, Grey's Anatomy vibes, and all those other medical dramas. But I'll definitely give it another shot, and I'll probably watch just because of Sophia and support her. But this pilot, I did enjoy. I thought it was a B plus.
All right, that's great. Now, full disclosure, I will say, and y'all know this, like I've talked about this before, I'm not a fan of medical dramas really at all. I find them all like very just like kind of repetitive and samey. There's not many that really stick out to me. This pilot, unfortunately, reminded me why I don't like these kind of shows. Now, I will say there are some elements that I do enjoy. Sophia Bush is very good in this role. I think she is very well cast here. She's very likable. You gravitate towards Sam. You know, you understand why the show is called Good Sam, because she's someone that cares a lot about her patients. She's someone that really kind of sees like the best in everyone. I think she's really good. And I think Jason Isaacs, I mean, it's Jason Isaacs. So like, obviously he's really good. He's an amazing actor and he does a really good job portraying this role. We'll get to how I feel about his character, but I think overall, I like him in the show. I think these two do work well together. Unfortunately, the show overall, I just found kind of phony, and I'll get into why. The way this started out to me felt like we were in the middle of a scene. Like I thought I hit something like on my Apple TV and I like skipped too far ahead. I'm like, oh no, this is literally like how it's starting. I was so confused. We're like, she's talking to this patient, trying to make him feel better. I'm like, what happened like the 2 minutes before this? Like why are we starting out in the middle of the scene? It was so like jarring to me in that way. So that immediately was like really caught me off guard. The thing that really bothered me about this pilot is the actual incident surrounding Jason Isaacs. Like, I get why it happened. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that it happens literally like 2 minutes into the episode. There's no time to really establish the bond between Rob and Sam and like really see like why they have this sort of like contentious relationship as father and daughter. We don't really get to see any of that. In fact, we don't even realize that he's her fucking father until he gets into the coma and is shot. And I'm like, horrible storytelling. I did not like the way that was done at all. I thought it was so abruptly handled. And I honestly, I'm not going to lie, I did laugh at it because I thought it was so horribly executed.
Not that.
The way the guy like cornered him and is like, no, you get back here. And he just fucking shot him. I thought it was.
Not you laughing at that.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was handled in a funny manner. So yeah, I was not a fan of the way that was shot at all. So immediately, like this show did not start off very well for me, but what I think really hurts it is that they really don't do a lot to get us to care about this dynamic between these two. So the shooting just does not feel earned. Like when you have something like that happen, you got to make it feel earned. That's supposed to be like the hook of your pilot, and it just feels like any other event that happens. Like when it happens so early on, I don't feel shit about it because I don't know these characters. I don't know how this affects them. I don't know that this is her father until he's shot. So I just thought that it was very weak in terms of storytelling. And again, maybe I'm just asking for more because I've watched a lot of shows that are like very slow paced and have handled this better, but I just needed them to do a much better job with that. And then it pissed me off even more when we do a whole time jump. We don't even get to see how the hospital recovers from this. We don't get to see how Sam ends up in this position. She's just magically in this position now. She's like the head of the hospital. She's turned everything around, and I didn't care about any of it. And the reason why is because I have not seen the journey in her getting there. And to me, like, this might be a weird complaint to you guys, but like, I really felt like this whole first season, we should still have him in a coma. You can have flashbacks of like these two really establishing their relationship, but the main story of this season should have been Sam like turning around the hospital. You know, we get the sense early on that this hospital, they're constantly busy. They're not satisfied with the way things are going. You know, things are rushing, and like they're also overwhelmed and stressed. And Sam finds a way to like turn things around. I would have much rather liked it if he's in the coma throughout the entire season and she's turning things around. And then at the end of the season, you can have him wake up and like try to take over. Like that would be so much better. But
that would be good.
The show essentially tells an entire season of television in 40 minutes. And I'm just kind of like, why? Like, why didn't you take the time to like really set this up? So every plot point here felt so rushed and unexplored to me. And I just was not a fan of that at all. Like the one scene where all of her friends are at the bar, like all her colleagues are at the bar and they're talking about like how much better the hospital is. I'm like, great, but like, can we see the journey and them getting there? Like, I don't care about this. I don't feel satisfied. I'm not happy for them because I don't fucking know any of these guys. Like it really pissed me off with the way that they handle this. And I gotta be honest, like once Jason Isaacs returned, I almost completely checked out of this because I really just did not care about this story. I like the idea that he's trying to like sustain his position and kind of like overthrow her. But again, I just didn't care enough for this back and forth to really work for me. I need to see more of their relationship. I like a lot of the ideas here, but they're just not well fleshed out. And had we focused more, I think that this could have really been something good, but it's all just way too brief for my liking. So again, I just felt that this was so incredibly rushed. I liked the scene where like she calls him out for it, but it felt like something that would happen in like a much later episode. I didn't really feel like it needed to happen yet. I felt like you could have had a few episodes of him really trying to overthrow her, really getting on her nerves, and then she can call him out for it. Why is she calling him out already? Like, do we want to have conflict here? Like, is that something we want to have in this show? Or do we just want to have a bunch? And this is why I don't like medical shows. Or we're just going to have a bunch of fucking cases of people that we don't see anymore after that episode. So like, what do we really want to have here? And for me, this just turned into a very generic medical drama. So that really did bother me. And again, I think what bothers me about is that it could be so much more with if they were able to dive into these elements more, like Rob being a strange father. That's something that's not really explored. Yeah. You know, him recognizing it as well feels like something that also should be explored a lot more, because he does recognize at the end that, like, yeah, I'm going too far. There's no conflict now. Like, what is the conflict in the show moving forward? What's going to happen here? We find out he was like having an affair with like her friend or something. Like, that's not dived into either. They don't do anything with that. Like, there's so much here that they could explore more. And the other thing that really pissed me off is that the reveal of her being in this accident that like gave her this heart transplant, it is very obvious that it was a car accident. Like, it's so obvious to the point where I don't know why there's any mystery here. Like, it's so obvious what ended up happening to her that like he clearly caused the accident, and that's what, you know, got her to become this heart surgeon, because she needed that heart surgery herself. Like, again, give me flashbacks, give me anything to latch onto. This pilot just gave me nothing overall. So yeah, I mean, I didn't like that. The music also is terrible. It was so over dramatic and cheesy. I felt like I was watching a Lifetime movie at points. I really
hated not a Lifetime movie.
This show. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think some people are really going to dig this as you did, but this is not something that I normally watch, and it doesn't really do much to really change like my perceptions of medical dramas. And if anything, I think it really kind of like amplifies that problem, because you have a concept here that could be really good, but they don't really lay the groundwork to make any of this work. So instead, it just feels like any other medical drama to me. So yeah, sadly, I was not a fan of this one. C for Good Sam. I will watch more with you because I know you want to watch. I hope I feel better differently as the show goes on, but right now I'm not feeling it.
You don't have to watch with me, but it's up to you.
I know, but I feel like I should, because we watched at least the first episode together. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Good Sam. As I said, we feel very differently on this one. I know you said you give it a B+. Let's move on to the last one we'll be discussing, at least for now. Then we'll come back and talk about some of the other ones. Let's talk about Pivoting. So this was yet another one that we went into, did not know much about going into it. I don't know if you knew anything going into it, aside from, I know you're a fan of Jennifer Goodwin. But like,
that was fun.
Yeah, aside from that, I didn't really know much going into it. And I will say, I think the show is a lot of fun. I definitely will stick around. I don't think this was a good pilot. I don't think as a pilot of television, this really works. And my biggest issue with it is, again, I think a lot of this just felt very rushed to me. The one thing I will say is that the premise itself, it just felt really rushed. Like, the first 5 minutes were already getting to the idea that they need to change their lives. They need to turn things around. And I would have liked it much more if the entire pilot was centered on us seeing their lives and like how complicated they are. Like, we could really hone in on the fact that like Maggie Q hates her job. She doesn't like this. She's upset with her wife for like cheating on her. And this is like really like put a strain on things. You can focus on, I don't remember her name, but our main Eliza Coupe, her character, Coupe's character, and like the fact that she is so overwhelmed by like her kids and her job, and she just can't handle it all. And like, you could really hone in on that, or you could hone in on Jennifer Goodwin and her having like body issues and her feeling like she's overweight, not being able to like fit into things, which very relatable. I will say, I need to lose some weight myself, so that was definitely very relatable. That was very relatable in that way. But again, I just felt like those journeys themselves were very rushed in this first episode. So again, while I enjoyed watching their individual journeys, I'll be honest with you, I felt like I was watching the second episode of the show. I didn't feel like I was watching a pilot. It was very strange with the way that they structured it. But what saves it is that overall, I did enjoy what I got here. I think all three of these women have amazing chemistry. They work so well together. I love their back and forth. I thought that they were just a lot of fun to watch. The cynical nature early on worked really well for me in terms of humor. Like, you really get the sense that these women just really hate their lives. They do anything to like just please themselves. And I thought that they were a lot of fun to watch in that way. And I do think the opening established just like how spoiled these characters have really become because of like their successes. So I enjoyed that a lot as well. I thought that that was really good. And all their individual journeys are like very fun to watch. Like especially Maggie Q is the one I gravitated towards the most. I really like her character. I like the idea that she just one day decides I'm going to quit, being a doctor. I don't like it anymore. And now she's going to become like this grocery clerk of sorts. Like that's a really funny idea. I liked the montage of like her seeing all the grocery workers and Herbert, like her, that's like harmonious sort of feel with her wanting to be in that position. Like that's a really funny idea. There's a lot you can do with that. So she's the character that I'm latching onto the most. Eliza Coop, I enjoy quite a bit as well. I like her sort of struggling with being a mom and her trying to like make time for her kids and repair her relationship with like her husband. I think overall their individual journeys are really good. I will say, though, I do not like Jennifer Goodwin's character right now. I don't think that her story is very strong at all. I don't have a problem with her wanting to lose weight. I think that's fine. The issue that I have is that her entire journey right now, like her entire storyline in this season feels like a subplot. It does not feel like a story arc for a season. It feels like something you'd see in like a subplot of an episode and then it's dealt with. Literally all she is doing right now is she meets this personal trainer, realizes that he gives her some sort of like sexual rush that her husband doesn't, is literally trying to lose weight so she can cheat on her husband. Like this is not a good character. I don't care about this. Like this is stupid. So yeah, I just feel like there needs to be a lot more. And maybe it's because the other two characters are so strong that hers really like sticks out like a sore thumb, but she needs a better subplot. Like, I don't know what you have to do, but give her something, because right now I'm getting nothing from her as a character. So I need something more from her for sure. I also felt like the friend that died just kind of felt like an afterthought. They bring her up every so often. We don't really get to see like her friendship with them or anything. I had this same problem with like Girls 5 Eva, where they didn't really dive deep into that character. And I think this show is already stuff. I wish we could see more of that friend. I get that like she motivates them, but overall she kind of just feels like a plot device to me. So I hope we get to see more of Colleen at some point. Also, like aside from the three women, there's nothing to anyone else in the show. Tommy Dewey, very good actor. Enjoyed him a lot in the show Casual. He's completely wasted here. He has nothing to do. He's very much just her husband. Like he's Eliza Coop's husband, and that's kind of it. Like there really isn't much of a role to him at all. So I hope that they give him a little bit more to do. But overall, like I do think the show's a lot of fun. I do think it has a lot of potential to become something special. I think that these women are a lot of fun. I enjoy a lot of the storylines that are going on. I think there's some issues here and there, especially with Jennifer Goodwin's character. They need to do a lot better work when it comes to her. I just think overall, this just was not the strongest pilot to me. So I can't overall give it a positive grade, but it is something I did enjoy watching and I am going to continue moving forward. So C+ for pivoting. I think there's a lot of fun ideas. I am going to watch it overall. I just can't say at the end of the day, objectively, that it's a good pilot just because of those issues I brought up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. It didn't really feel like a pilot.
No.
So yeah, those, so that definitely, but other than that, I did like this. I did enjoy this pilot, but obviously it felt more like a second or third episode.
Yeah.
I love the badass female leads. Always love girl power.
Oh, yeah.
And Jennifer Goodwin, she's a great actress, and I've seen her in a bunch of things. But yeah, her character definitely needs work.
Yes.
Hopefully her character gets better as the episodes go on.
I just need to be more than her cheating on her husband. Like, come on, that's so stupid. Come on.
Like, no, not that. But yeah, it's a strong cast overall, but like besides the women, the rest are kind of wasted. But maybe they'll get more of a role later on. We'll see. Good acting. It's fun. It's very comedic. Just a lot of like comedic and hilarious moments. Yeah, it's definitely rushed at times, but other than that, I did enjoy it. Just needs to fix some of the slight issues and everything and their tweaks. But other than that, I did enjoy this pilot. I'll definitely watch more. And yeah, I gave this a B-.
All right, guys. So we just got done watching the pilot for Naomi, and here's the interesting thing about this one. You already know this, Allie, because I talked about it. But you know, most of these shows I'm going into, you know, when I usually do these like pilot videos, a lot of the time when I'm doing it, I don't really know what these shows are. I'm going in pretty much blind. I haven't seen much promotion and things like that. I don't watch a lot of trailers for TV shows these days because I feel like they tend to spoil like a lot of like key elements of the season. So I try to like stray away from those. That being said, Naomi was actually one I was quite looking forward to, not because of like marketing or anything like that, mainly because of Ava DuVernay being behind it. I feel like in recent years, she has become someone that I really do enjoy in terms of storytelling. When They See Us is just one of the most powerful things I've ever watched. And since then, I've just very much become a fan of Ava DuVernay. I still need to watch her Colin Kaepernick show and things like that, but her taking on like a DC CW show, you know, sounds really interesting because Ava DuVernay is always about like, you know, I don't know if you've seen a lot of her work, but she likes to make a lot of like real life parallels and things like that. A lot of like social justice issues and all that kind of stuff. So I was very excited to see how she would apply that in Naomi. And I'll say right now, she didn't really do that, but I still really did enjoy this pilot quite a bit. The one thing I will say right off the bat, in terms of these DC CW shows, I'll be 100% honest, I'm completely burnt out when it comes to them. Like, I fell off of them like a while ago, and I just never really had the motivation to come back. Every time I wanted to come back, I just heard something dumber was happening, like fucking lightsabers and like The Flash, for example. Like, I don't really want to watch that. Like, that's dumb. And every time I wanted to come back for like a crossover or something, that crossover was like disappointing. So yeah, I mean, this and Superman Lois are like the only ones I'm like interested in right now. And I think a big reason for that is right off the bat, they're pretty much their own shows. There's not a lot of references here to other DC shows and things like that. And I like that right off the bat. You can kind of just go into this blind and have a good idea of what this show's really about. But the other thing that really sticks out to me about Naomi is that we have a character in the show that is just as much of a geek as its target audience. And that's something that people are really going to love. I love that Naomi is just this big, like, comic book aficionado. She's obsessed with Superman. She's constantly like applying Superman to like daily situations and things like that. I really enjoyed that a lot. I think that she is a really fun character to watch. And Casey Walfall, sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but like, she is fantastic here. I think that she carries the show very nicely. You gravitate towards Naomi. You know, she's someone that seems normal, but you can tell there's something special about her. And it's that normalcy, I think, that really draws you to this character. Because a lot of the times when it comes to these main characters, I feel like they all are like relatively the same. They're like, you know, these millennials, they work in like some office building, but then they're also like, you know, a superhero of sorts. And they got to try to like, you know, contain both of those lives as much as they can. But Naomi's refreshing because this is just a normal girl in high school. We know that she definitely has some kind of mystical powers, but it's only hinted at in this episode. And I liked that a lot. I like that we're not really getting a full-on origin story. It's a lot more like low-key in that way. And I think that definitely is what sticks out about it. So I really did enjoy that. I will say the show does get into some of the tropes that hold back a lot of DC CW shows. Like, you have the funny best friend who's kind of just like the funny best friend, and there isn't really much to her. You know, you have the guy that she's clearly going to end up in a relationship with that, you know, is kind of just that. There's really not much to him. You have her parents that are just giving all these like motivational speeches that feel incredibly repetitive just from this first episode. So yes, there are a lot of tropes, but I think that the show does enough to try to do something different here. Like I said, I like the human part of Naomi's life, and that we're mainly focusing on that, you know, her just trying to be a normal teenager, her trying to, you know, it seems like she fell out with this guy and she's trying to like repair that in some way. So I really enjoyed just getting to see stuff like that. I think the show does a good job. And I also think that the show does make it kind of obvious that Naomi's eventually going to develop powers of her own. Like I said, I like the way the show really does hint at it. We find out we know in this episode that obviously her adopted parents don't know much about her origins. They don't know much about what's happened to her. And I think that the connection to Superman is a really good idea, because I think there's a lot more connections to these two than we think. I think there's a reason she is so drawn to that character, and that's something I really do want to know more about. So I think all of that is really good, and I'm very excited to get into more of the similarities between those two. That's something I really did enjoy. I liked the scene at the end with like the UFO sighting. I think that they're gonna, dive into that very well in the show. I also really like the character of D. Now, I will say it was super obvious that there was something going on with him, that he's not just like this tattoo shop artist. There's clearly more going on there, but I like that we already have, this revealed. I like that we don't have to spend a whole season trying to figure out what's going on with him. And I'm very excited to get more into that character and maybe his connection to Naomi, what he's really all about. I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper into that. So I really like him overall. My issues with the show, I will say, though, is that aside from those two characters, I'll just be honest, the other characters didn't really do much for me at all here. I found them pretty much one note for the most part. I just didn't really latch on to really anyone in the show. So I thought that was kind of an issue. Like, I want to know more about her best friend. I want to know more about some of the other characters that we meet here, but they just didn't really do much for me. In particular, the villain. This is something that CW, I feel like, always struggles with. For a while, they were doing a good job with like Arrow and the Flash and things like that, but recently they just have the most like bland and one-note villains as possible. And Zumbado in this episode, I think, embodies all of the traits that we don't want to see from a villain. He's really loud, and he gets into like Naomi's like deepest insecurities and things like that. And I liked him questioning her love for Superman. I like when he's asking her like, why do you feel this way towards him? Why are you so obsessed with all these comics? But everything about this guy was just so one note. I didn't care about him. I didn't find him intimidating. I just found him to be just a guy who's there because we need a villain. Like, there's nothing special about him, and I hope they're able to dive deeper into this character, because right now he is not doing anything for me. Also, I hate to say this, but Barry Watson I thought was very miscast in this role. I did not really buy him as her dad. He honestly felt like he was kind of, I don't know if you agree with me, I felt like he was kind of sleepwalking throughout this entire pilot. It did not really seem like he wanted to be here. A lot of delivery, just kind of like this, and a lot of just very whispery voice, like, oh, Naomi, you got to face your fears. Oh, you got to do this. Like, it's really obvious he does not want to be there. And the half-assed
face your fears.
Yeah, the half-ass delivery just did not work for me at all here. So I wasn't really a big fan of that.
You can do anything if you just believe.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, like I said, I like how different this show is in terms of its story. I think that there's a lot of interesting things they're doing here. I think it's a very different kind of origin story than what we normally see, and that's something I really do like. So I do think the show has a lot of tools to be successful. I overall enjoyed what we ended up getting because of the Naomi character, but I need them to dive a bit deeper into some of these characters, because right now that's what's really lacking in the show for me. And I think if they're able to do that, I think this can easily become one of the best shows that we've seen on the CW in quite a bit. So B- for me when it comes to this pilot. I know I've talked a lot about this one. Like I said, it's probably out of all the pilots we're talking about, the one I was most excited for. So obviously I had quite a bit to say, but I'm going to go ahead and give you some time to speak so I can stop rambling here.
All right. So I basically went into this pilot like completely blind. I've never even really like,
and we still bought it for $2.99 on iTunes because fuck commercials. We do not like those.
Yeah, we ended up buying it because the CW site has commercials, so we ended up just buying it on iTunes.
So the question is, Allie, was it worth the buy?
Yeah, like since I went into it blind, I didn't know anything about it or anything. But yes, it actually was worth the buy.
Yes.
I thought it was just very fun. The storyline was very intriguing, very low key.
Yes.
The acting was good, but I mean, obviously, like some people were kind of iffy. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll get better as episodes go on. Yeah, I echo you with like the characters. I'd like to see more about like her friend and the rest of them. I'd like to.
It really is not much to them.
I just want to see like more about their like background and stuff.
Oh yeah, I also forgot to say the actress playing her friend. Ooh, she's really bad. Like I'm not a fan of her. I did not think she was good in this episode.
I mean, I didn't think she was terrible, but I definitely want to like see her improve.
Yeah, I think besides like Naomi and like Dee, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the performances here.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely Naomi and Dee were the best for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, her parents, they need to improve a little bit as well, like acting wise and their story.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely really great ideas. Obviously there's a lot of mistakes, but I'm sure they'll improve, I hope. But yeah, I'll definitely rewatch more, or I'll definitely watch more. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that need to be fixed, but I did enjoy it and I did give it a B.
Yes. Also, I will say it is very refreshing to see a CW show that doesn't have like this overabundance of like terrible special effects. Recently, I don't know what's been going on with the CW, but they have had some of the worst like effects that I've seen, to the point where that's why I'm not watching these shows. I'm like looking at these videos. I'm like, what the fuck? How did this get so bad? Why do we have like a Power Rangers level villain in the Flash? Like, how did we really get here? So like, I'm glad to see a show that doesn't really rely that much on that. And I think that's definitely benefiting the show overall. But yeah, like I said, I definitely recommend this one. It is way better than the previous DC pilot I discussed in my fall pilots video of 2019. Way better than that. I think the show has way more potential. Clunky dialogue and things like that aside, I think overall the show is going to be successful. So overall,
what? Definitely, if you're gonna watch, don't go on the CW if you don't want commercials.
Yes.
Yes, I would definitely suggest purchasing it.
Yes, and yeah, we recommend this one for sure. Good show. All right, let's cut to the next one. All right, so we just watched the pilot. Finally, we have a new pilot to talk about, Allie. It's been like over a month, I feel like, since we've talked.
I know.
This one is, of course, called The Endgame. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts on this show overall? Do you have any anticipation going into it? Like, what did you think?
I mean, I went into this like with no expectations at all, because
like, I've never everyone like most of these shows.
I've like never even heard of this one.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But like basically, I thought it was very intriguing, the story and everything, but it was very simple, like the concept. It's very typical heist crime drama that I've seen like a million times for sure. Very simple, very just and then Marina Baccarin definitely is hands down the best part. She really sticks out for sure. I thought the acting was good. It wasn't like forced or anything. And it has some good ideas. I probably will like continue, because I feel like it'll improve as it goes on.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about it. Just basically that it was just an okay pilot. It kind of just felt more like I was watching one of the Midseason episodes. Like, it wasn't really much of a pilot, but I did like it. It was pretty good. Just I think it'll improve later on. But yeah, I gave it a C+.
Yeah, getting into it, I was very frustrated by this pilot, mainly because there's a lot of things I actually liked about this. Similar to you, like going in, I didn't really know what this was really going to be. I saw it have Marina Baccarin, usually a big fan of her, so I was hoping she'd be really good, and she's by far the best part of the show. She really just transforms into this character so well. Elena is such a intriguing character in that way, because you don't really know what her motivation is throughout what she's doing. Like, why is she taking all this money? Why is she framing this guy? Like, what's her real overall mission here? And I think while Elena as a character isn't really doing it for me so far, I think Marina Baccarin is really doing a great job. And I think she's what keeps this show intriguing overall. And I think she's just really good in this role. The problem is, for me, what brings this pilot down is that I feel like this is one of those pilots that is like so intent to like get to the good stuff that all of the stuff that's like really important, it kind of just rushes through. And what I mean by that is that basically everything going on like character wise is just told to us through exposition, whether it's the very brief flashbacks we get of like Elena's life, which I enjoy seeing, but I felt like they were done in like such a fragmented way. I honestly had a hard time like even telling you what was really going on, what her past was really about. I really think they could have presented that better than they did. So that overall really frustrated me.
I mean, maybe they'll like express it more in like upcoming episodes.
Yeah, I think they definitely will. And that's the thing. I do think they'll do a better job with that. But similar to you, I did very much get the sense that this did not really feel like a pilot. It very much felt like a middle of the season type episode. And I think it's just the frantic nature of everything. I mean, getting into Ryan Michelle Bath's character, who I will say I liked her quite a bit. I liked her performance in the show.
Honestly, she was probably the second best in it.
Yeah, besides the two of them, I didn't really find the acting to be that special, but those two I thought did a really good job. And what I liked about her character is that she could just be this very like generic detective, but she brings a lot of passion into the role, and you can see that there's like a real person behind all this. And I think she does a really good job with that. But similar to Elena, everything with her character is just told to us. We don't actually get to see any of what she's going through. Her husband's like in jail. There's like some custody battle going on. I want to see like more about this. Like, I think it would have been way more effective if we would have actually gotten to see some of that in this first episode, see what she's dealing with. Then when we're in the heat of it all and, you know, she's talking about this custody battle, like we know what that really means to her. We know the weight of everything. It was lost on me. Like that's, I think the best way to describe is that I just didn't feel that attached to what was going on because the show is in such a rush to get through everything. And I think that's what really does bring it down. And because of that, it does at points feel quite generic. It doesn't do a great job of separating itself from dark crime dramas. I don't know if you watch the show at all, but I used to watch the show called The Blacklist. It's still going on.
I've never seen that one.
I did watch a few episodes of it, kind of lost interest after a while, to be honest with you. But this very much did remind me of that, where yeah, I'm fine. This did very much remind me of that, where, you know, you have the very dark and mysterious character who's like kind of morally ambiguous, and then he meets up with the like just as complex like detective, and they kind of go through all these different sort of missions together. Like this did very much remind me of that. I do think it does enough to separate itself, but I don't think overall this show has fully found its identity yet. I think again there was a little too much exposition going on here.
Oh yeah.
I do think they set up the confrontation pretty well between Elena and Val, but again, that felt like something where it's like we've been watching these two and we're gearing up for the two of them to meet like face to face. It's like you already did it in the first episode. What's the mystery here? Like, where are we really going? What is the hook? It feels like it's a lot of just Elena being detained and like telling her story, and I just don't think it was a very good hook in this pilot. I think that's what was really missing for me. I will say there was actually some pretty good action. I really like the heist sequence, especially. I thought that was honestly a pretty intense sequence, the way that was done.
Yeah, the action was really good.
Yeah, the acting was good. The score I liked quite a bit as well. Very like techno-y and really like sticks out from like other shows of this kind. I enjoyed the score quite a bit.
Me too.
Overall, I do like a lot of what this show is trying to do. I just don't think as a pilot, this really worked. I think it was a little too frantic. I think there was a lot going on. It was honestly very hard to fully stay invested because I just had a hard time latching on to these characters. I do think, like you said, like there's enough here to where I can say I am going to stick with this one. I am going to give it like a few more episodes to hopefully find its groove. But right now, I can't really say I'm hooked. Besides Elena and Val, like the other characters did absolutely nothing for me. But those two performances are strong enough. There's some good moments here to where I think I can overall say I do think the show is going to be successful. Like, I definitely see this finding an audience. I definitely see people watching this show. It's just right now, I'm not really fully hooked in it right now. So my overall grade, I think, for this show would in fact be a C+.
Yeah, like I said, I gave it a C+ for this pilot, but I'll probably it might change in the upcoming episodes. I love being surprised, so we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, I really hope that they're able to, if they're able to slow things down a bit, maybe just focus more on like the characters and their individual journeys and not so much on just like the mission, which just isn't as exciting to me.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it another chance. Like, I want to just hear more about character and everything.
Yeah, I think if they're able to do that, I do think it could become something special. It's just not quite there yet for me. But overall, I think that's really all we have to say about this one. So I think we're just going to go ahead and move on and talk about the next show. I think we only got like 2 left, so we'll see you when we talk about those.
Ooh, exciting.
Once again, back after God knows how long. I don't know why these pilots are so like spaced out, but we are talking about the second to last of the mid-season pilots. This is wrapping up finally, Allie, after who knows how long. We're talking about
I always have so much fun with this though.
Oh, yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to talk about these last 2. This one in particular, I actually did have some interest in. I read the plot, and it sounded somewhat intriguing to me. It kind of reminded me of, like, a Sean Baker movie, because a lot of the times, he's been doing a lot of movies about, like, these, like, small towns and things like that, and kind of showing, like, the way they, the way they live and things like that, and seeing that Aya Cash was involved, I was very excited to see how this would turn out. And I have 2 things to say about the show right off the bat. One is that this was a rapidly different show from what I was expecting. 2, unfortunately, out of all the comedy pilots we reviewed, I think I like this one the least. I gotta be honest. I actually liked American Auto a little bit more because at least that gave me more to talk about. This was incredibly disposal to me and didn't really do much of anything to really hook my interest. But before I give my thoughts, what did you think of this show? Without getting into your notes, just like general thoughts.
I mean, I went into it blind, so I knew nothing about it. So really, I honestly had no expectations going into it.
Yeah. I mainly was just excited because of Aya, because you guys know how much I love You're the Worst, and will forever get excited for anything she's in. So.
I need to watch that.
Oh, it's so good.
So far, like going into it, I didn't really have any expectations because obviously I knew nothing about it. But just before I get into my actual thoughts, right now I'll just say that it was just okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll get right into it right now. I think right from the start for me, I just wasn't really feeling it in terms of the comedy. I found it to be very sort of hit or miss. And I think my biggest issue when it comes to the comedy is that everything's just way too fast in this show. This is a very fast-paced show, and I don't mean that in a good way. It's so fast to the point where it's like you'll have quick exposition about this character, and then we immediately move on to something else, and there's no time to really process anything. There's no time to really digest anything when it comes to these characters. And it just feels very quick. And I just had a very hard time getting invested as a result. And I think that really did hurt this show for me. I also think the choice to make this a mockumentary style doesn't really work for this show because I like the fact that they're trying to have the facade that this is real and things like that. Like they go as far as to have the title cards and things like that, and text pop up on the screen. I thought that was kind of a fun idea, but it just kind of feels like a gimmick to me. I'm not gonna lie. This felt very gimmicky in that way. It didn't really feel like it was enhancing anything when it came to the show. It just kind of felt like one of those shows where it's like, we want to do this, we don't really know how we want to do it, so we're just going to do it as a mockumentary. And it just really kind of cheapened the entire thing. I don't really think it worked very much at all. The only thing that really compelled me in terms of character is actually the character of Nadine. I like her quite a bit. I like the idea that her and Kelly used to be friends, and then Kelly kind of went through some troubles of her own. And now because of that, Nadine is not really on the best terms with her. Like, that was the only bit of character development I actually cared about.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I thought that was actually kind of interesting. But other than that, there really wasn't much to latch onto here. I mean, I like Aya Cash and Sean William Scott, but they're barely fucking in this, so I don't really have much to say about either of them. But they're easily the best part of this show, I think, in terms of acting. I will say I did think that Chelsea Holmes and Sam Straley did work well together. I haven't seen either of them act before, but I thought both of them gave really strong performances, and I thought that they had a really good back and forth. But it wasn't because they were making me laugh. It's just because I can see that these two are working well together. And I also, by the end of this show, kind of came up with this idea, Ali, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel like this show would have actually worked a lot better if it wasn't about the people in the small town. Maybe if it was about the people that are filming the documentary. I think that would be a really fun kind of fresh take on it.
Okay.
You can have these filmmakers, they have an intention to film this documentary, and then it turns out to be not really what they expected. I think that would just be a lot more interesting to me. And again, maybe it's just because you guys know I watch mainly prestige TV and things like that. So
Prestige doesn't Prestige the org.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we do support that org a lot, but that's completely unrelated to this. And the people who are watching this literally have no idea what we're talking about. So we're gonna get back to. I
don't know why I thought of that.
Yeah, we're gonna stay on topic here. No, but I think that just would have been a much more interesting way to go about this, because a lot of people like to talk about these sort of mockumentary shows and how they're the bottom of the barrel in terms of comedy. And I've always tried to defend them and be well, they have an idea, they go for it. I think Abbott Elementary is a really, good example of how to tackle that in the best way. This just feels cheap. This just feels lazy. And unfortunately, I can't really defend this one much at all. I probably will watch the rest because Hulu did something very interesting where they dropped the first 7 episodes of this all at once. But I'll be honest, I don't really think that inspires a lot of confidence. I feel like this is a show they don't really know what to do with, and they just kind of want to just get it out of the way, and they're dropping the first 7 episodes so people will just watch it and not really talk about it. I don't really see the show lasting at all. I don't think it made that much of an impression, unless maybe you live in this small town. Maybe they captured it authentically, but really didn't do much for me at all at the end of the day. So unfortunately, I wasn't super into this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, I knew nothing about it going in, but I have a few notes, not a huge, not too many. Like I always do.
You can talk.
Apparently I can't talk today.
I know.
But yeah, I usually just do a little Twitter thread of my thoughts. I thought the storyline was cute and fun, but it was also just very simple and mediocre. Nothing really too crazy or nothing too much into it. It just didn't really have a lot going into this and everything. And maybe the storyline will get better as the episodes go on. But this episode was just very just mediocre for sure.
Yeah.
And I just thought it wasn't very funny. I never really laughed at all. I don't think I did at all. No, I didn't.
I laughed a bit in the beginning, but it very much faded out.
Yeah.
It was very on and off, I would say.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, I echo you with the mockumentary not working with this one, because Abbott Elementary is a different story. Yeah. So this one, it just doesn't work. But yeah, Aya and Sean were great. Probably the best part. But yeah, they were definitely very underused, at least in this episode. Hopefully they get more of a character and more of a story.
I forgot to say, I want to see more of their relationship as well, because we kind of shed a light on the fact that they used to be together and then something happened. And we get that's what I'm talking about. We get very brief moments of character. It's not enough to really hook me in. Yeah,
they definitely really should get more into that and everything. Yeah. But yeah, like some of the chemistry with the characters and actors was really good. Just there just wasn't a lot showcased in this episode, but maybe maybe there'll be more. I'll probably still watch with you. Because like obviously we always watch a lot of shows together, and
especially recently.
And also there's only
my God.
There's only gonna be like 10 episodes or so. So I mean, might as well.
Yeah. And the first 7's on Hulu, so probably can just
and they're only like 20 minutes, so it's like short.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just so far going into it, don't really have like high expectations for this series. Hopefully it changes my mind. Hopefully it gets better. But yeah, really, I just gave it a C.
I would also give it a C. That's unfortunately, like I said, I did give American Auto the same grade in terms of a pilot, but American Auto I felt had more going for it. This to me just felt very like disposable. They didn't really do much to like elevate the genre, and I just don't really see it lasting all that long. I don't think the show's gonna make that much of an impression.
I feel like this show is only gonna last maybe 1 or 2 seasons. Like I just don't see a lot of people vibing with it.
No, I don't. I think only if you're like from the small town that's like depicted here. I don't see a lot of people.
I do really... like a lot of small town things. It's just this one's not very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. But that's Welcome to Flatch. That's the second to last one we're going to be talking about, and we will see you guys for the last one when we finally wrap this up.
Yay!
All right, so we've finally reached the last pilot here, and that, of course, is for How We Roll, which is a CBS sitcom, which, to be honest, like, I don't have much anticipation for. You guys know me, sitcoms are not really my jam these days. I just find a lot of them very, like, derivative and generic and things like that. But this one, I gotta say, actually kind of won me over by the end of it. It was a lot better than I expected it to. Yeah. And I think I can safely say this is probably one of the better pilots we've seen out of the ones we've talked about.
I actually really enjoyed it too. It was a fun one.
Yeah, same. I'm going to start off giving my thoughts, but right off the bat, I think in the beginning, they did a really good job of setting up our lead character and, him wanting to like pursue his dreams and things like that. The one thing the show does have that kind of hurts it is that we already know that this character is going to achieve his dreams because it is based on a true story. But I think they do a good job of setting up, his passion for bowling and, how happy he was when, he was on a bowling team and whatnot. I thought that was a really good like setup to his character. And Pete Holmes is so good in this role. He has all the warmth that you really want this character to have, but he also has this like confliction and stoicism that just I think really works for a lead character like this. So you can see this is someone that he really wants to pursue this dream, but he doesn't really know if he has like a solid plan to do so. So you can see why he's so like conflicted in that way. And I thought that worked out very well here. And I think he does a really good job in this show. The comedy also, I have to say, a lot better than I expected. Like early on, I was surprised how much I was laughing just from the opening scene. Nothing like particularly memorable in terms of humor, but it's definitely stuff I laughed at, and it's, fun enough to where I can say that like it's definitely better than some of the other comedy pilots we've seen, because this one at least made me laugh, and I will definitely give this show that for sure. So I thought the comedy was pretty consistent here. I will say at first I wasn't big on the rest of the cast, but the more this went on, the more I found like everyone really had like a good moment here. The big standout besides Pete Holmes, though, is absolutely Julia White. I was a big fan of her.
Not Julia, Julie.
Oh, okay. Julie White. I was a big fan of her. I think she is someone that, she starts off and she's kind of like the mother that's like a little hard on him, but you can see that she really does care for her son. She really wants him to be able to like achieve what he wants to, but also just kind of wants the best for him. And I think she could turn out to be one of the best characters of the show overall. The whole cast, I think, just has a really good chemistry to him. His friend as well, the whole speech he was giving about, being Black and wanting to pursue pursue dreams and having to put that on the back burner. There's some interesting stuff they could do with that character as well. I also really liked what they did with his son here. It wasn't anything crazy, but I thought it was very tasteful with him wanting to be a tap dancer and him kind of getting scrutinized for it, and his dad kind of paralleling that with what he wants to do, where it's like, if you want to go out and do something, you should go do it. It's a bit surface level, I'll say that. Like, it doesn't really go far beyond like follow your dreams. Like, it's very basic, but it's inspiring enough to where I think it's like, it feels very uplifting in that way. And I really found myself kind of latching on to their bond. So I thought it was pretty sweet what they ended up doing there. So again, I think the show has a very palpable sense of heart. I think it's very easy to buy into. The cast as a whole has really good chemistry. The only thing that holds this show back is that I just think it's a little light in terms of conflict. There's not a ton going on here besides what I just said. And I'm very worried that the show is going to run out of steam very quickly, just because the fact that there isn't really a ton going on right now. But it is just the pilot, so they could always introduce like other elements as it goes on. And my only other thing is I would have liked to see a little bit more build up when it came to him making this decision. We didn't really get to see him in this job. We don't really know how this job was for him. It's a lot of tell not show, and I wish that they like showed it to us. I think if they, it's like a show not tell thing. Like, I think if they would have presented us him in this environment and how he really was just kind of sticking it out because he felt he needed a job, but not really doing what he wants to do, I think we would have been that much more attached to him. But because Pete Holmes is just so good as the lead character, you just find yourself really buying into everything that he's doing. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this more than I expected to. I will say I don't know how this show is going to do longevity-wise. Like, I don't know if it has that audience and if it's going to be able to stick out from other shows, but it's definitely better than expected, and I would be down to see more. I see this as like a really good comfort watch for a lot of people. Like, if you're having a really bad day and you need like a really uplifting show, I think this is a good one to gravitate towards. It's nothing amazing, but it's definitely a really like feel-good show that I could definitely see myself sticking with. So B- for this one. I think it's probably one of the better comedy pilots we've seen.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. I really loved it was very comedic, and I really loved that. It was super funny. I thought the humor was hilarious, and the dialogue was pretty hilarious too, at least the majority of it. I love this cast, honestly. Like, I don't really know much about them, like, besides like the show. So like, this cast is great, and they have a lot of chemistry. So which is obviously great, because like, we want that. We want chemistry with each character.
Yes.
And then the storyline was just very cute, very fun, just very sweet kind of thing. But yeah, like, I kind of agree with you on that. It is very light. Maybe they'll get more into conflict like later on in the season. But like, this pilot is just very simple and light. But yeah, like, maybe they'll get into more, hopefully. Like, hopefully they get more into like different stories and such. But yeah, I definitely think the biggest standout is Julie White. She was so funny, especially in that opening scene. And then when she was with the ladder, when he was on it.
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, that part was really funny. And
that was a good moment.
Yeah. Basically, my opinions on the show are kind of similar to yours. Like, honestly, I do agree that this is a very comforting show. Like, it's just one of those shows that if you're having a bad day or you're really tired and exhausted from work or something, you just come home, lay in bed, and watch it, because it's just like one of those happy, cheerful shows. But yeah, other than that, nothing too much there's not really any issues besides it should have more conflict and stuff. Other than that, I really enjoyed this pilot. It was very strong. Excited to watch the rest of the season. Hopefully it does well. I don't know how well it's going to do in the long term.
I guess we'll see.
Like, I don't know if it's going to have one season or more. We'll see, though. Hopefully they have lots, depending on like the stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, very strong pilot, and I give it a B.
All right. Oh, yeah, I forgot to give my rating. So for me, I would give this one a B-. Oh, did I give my rating already?
You did.
Okay, I said B-. Okay, so I got that out of the way.
Yeah, that was different. You said B-, I said B.
Okay. All right, and with that, we have finally wrapped this up. This was very fun to do. I always enjoy doing these videos, and I will say, compared to other times, there was not a single bad pilot in the bunch. There was none that I really hated here. There were some that weren't that great, but I didn't watch one, and I absolutely hated myself doing so. So I will say right off the bat, I think this is probably one of the better batches, although I wouldn't say it's like one of the more consistent ones, because there weren't a lot of pilots that I liked here. I'm gonna go ahead, because I like to do this, like give my rankings for these pilots. So for me, I have the cleaning lady at 11, easily the worst one. Like, this is the one show where it's like I don't really want to watch any more of it. Welcome to Flatch at 10, just a little too dry for my liking. Good Sam at 9, wasn't really a fan. American Auto at 8. This is like the only one that I really didn't like that I kind of do want to stick with, because I heard it got better. So we might have to catch up on that one soon. The Endgame at 7. I have Pivoting at 6. This is where the ones that I started to like. Naomi at 5. How We Roll is actually at 4. And then the top 3, I feel like is pretty obvious. Abbott Elementary is at 3. Promised Land is at 2. And the best pilot of the ones we watched for me is Grand Crew. So that's my list. Did you do a rankings of any sort?
I did, but it was definitely tough, because there's a lot that have the same grade.
Yeah, that can be tough.
So I think I figured it out. 11, obviously the cleaning lady. It was just really bad, and I'm definitely not going to continue. Welcome to Flatch is definitely number 10. It was all right. It's just maybe it gets better, but the pilot was just kind of weak.
Yeah.
And then 9, the Endgame. It was good, just very mediocre, but maybe it gets better. I mean, hopefully. I love being surprised.
Yeah, I hope to stick with that one.
Then number 8 is American Auto. Like you said, it probably gets better, but we'll see. We definitely have to see what happens.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it gets better after the first episode.
Yeah, we'll have to see what we decide.
Yeah.
And then 7 is Pivoting. I mean, we'll see what happens. It was just kind of a meh, very mediocre as well. 6 was Naomi. I was kind of torn between this and Promised Land, but 6 is probably Naomi, but maybe it gets better. Who knows? 5, Promised Land. 4, Abbott Elementary. Excited to see more of that show, though. How We Roll, got to be number 3. I really enjoyed that one a lot. And then 2, just based on the pilot, I really enjoyed it. I put Good Sam. Okay. But I need to continue it. I'm also very excited to see all of the One Tree Hill girls back together.
Yeah.
And then my only A was Grand Crew, so that's got to be number 1.
All right, and with that, that about does it for our first ever mid-season pilot video we did together. This was a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again.
Yes,
before we do close things out, I'm sure everyone knows who you are, because you're always on my channel, because you're beautiful and perfect like that, and you should be. But in case you've never seen a video with Allie, where can they find you?
Well, my Twitter handle is AllieCatXO, and hit me up if you want my Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, any of that.
But don't hack her Instagram. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. I mean, Instagram's just been it gets hacked lately anyway.
Yeah.
But so just be careful, everyone. Be careful out there. I'm always up for making new friends. Yeah, I very much enjoyed this, and hopefully we can do more.
Yes, for sure. But other than that, guys, for this video, as always, comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of any of these pilots down below. Love to hear your thoughts on all of this. This has been a 3-month project in the making, Allie, and we finally got this done. So I'm very excited that we were able to get this done finally. We started literally right in the beginning of January. This is kind of crazy that we're finally wrapping this up. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in our next video, and we will see you guys for that. Oh, also, stay tuned for a conversation with Kelly.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Woo.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Have a